Moving on to issue 7. This is under the Department of Social Services, as are issues 8, 9, and 10. The first being the restoration of the IHSS 7% reduction. That is on page 10. Issue 7, page 10. Welcome, LAO. Are you going to present?
We believe Finance is presenting this item.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. We appreciate the Budget Committee's recommended approval of the restoration of the IHSS 7% reduction. As staff notes, earlier this year, the legislature and the administration adopted SB 2 as part of the second extraordinary session, which authorized a tax on the enrollment of Medi-Cal managed care plans and commercial health care plans. As part of this enacted tax, the May revise provides an increase of $265.8 million to reflect the restoration of the 7% reduction to the IHSS.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. And I got distracted for a moment, but you may have mentioned that the restoration is proposed to remain in effect as long as the MCO tax is, and that would be for?
That's correct. Right now, the MCO tax is scheduled to expire in 2019, and so it is tied to that date.
17, 18, and 19. LAO, any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Callie Freitag with the LAO. No comments at this time.
Thank you. And any questions or comments from the committee? I think we are all familiar with the subject. We have a motion to approve as requested and also approve trailer bill language as placeholder. Call the roll, please.
Leno?
Aye.
Nielsen? No. Allen? Anderson? Bell? Block? Glazer? Hancock? Mitchell? Monning? Morlock? Wynn? Pan? Pavley? Roth? Stone? Wolk?
The measure passes 12-3.
Mr. Chair,
Senator, yes.
My vote was caught because I added on at the end. I just wanted to confirm that my aye vote was registered.
I believe it was.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. 12-3. Moving on to issue 8, which is the implementation of the Fair Labor Standards Act, and that's on page 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Issue 8 is a legislative proposal calling for 6 policy changes related to the implementation of the Fair Labor Standards Act for IHSS providers. As you may recall, these federal regulations are new and they require that overtime, travel time, and medical wait time be paid to home care workers like IHSS providers. California implemented these regulations for IHSS providers on February 1st, 2016. I'm going to walk through the 6 bullet points listed on page 11 of your agenda and provide some brief context for each of the policy changes in this issue. The first policy change is related to the extension of a grace period. As part of the state's implementation plan, the state enacted work week caps for providers in order to limit the amount of overtime that a provider may incur. Also, as part of the implementation plan, the state established a grace period. So 3 months following implementation, so 3 months following February 1st, providers could work above these work week caps without incurring any violations. It's our understanding that the state has extended this grace period by 1 month through the month of May. So this proposal would extend the grace period until September 1st. The next 2 bullets are related to provider exemptions. These exemptions are exemptions to the work week caps that I just discussed, and they were established by the department administratively. The second policy would require DSS to send formal written notice to a certain group of providers that they think may qualify for the second exemption that they established. The third policy change, the third bullet, would require DSS to establish a written formal appeals process for providers who had applied for but not received an exemption to contest that decision. The fourth and fifth bullets are related to the county review of timesheets and potential violations. Currently, counties have 5 days to review a list of providers who the state has flagged as working over those workweek caps. The fourth bullet would extend this county review process from 5 days to 10 days, so the county may flag any timesheets that they see in error. And then the fifth bullet would explicitly authorize counties to overturn those violations or rescind those violations that they believe were made in error. The final proposal would equalize workweek caps. Currently, there are two different caps. Providers working for multiple recipients may work up to 66 hours per week, whereas providers working for one recipient may work up to 70 hours and 45 minutes per week. This final change would increase that workweek cap for providers with multiple recipients from 66 hours to 70 hours and 45 minutes per week. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Freitag, for walking us through that. Ms. Costa.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The administration does not support the committee's recommendation within this item. I think the analyst has done a fine job walking through the proposal, so I'll just highlight a couple of our concerns with the proposal as it is before you. Providers have been given a 3-month grace period to comply, and we believe that any extension of that grace period simply does not get us closer to complying with the law. Additionally, this proposal does include general fund spending outside of what we've proposed within the May revise, specifically for the extension of the grace period, and we believe the estimate of $40 million general fund is insufficient to actually cover the costs contemplated in this item. We estimate the costs are $34 million in 15-16 and $46 million in 16-17.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. And I think with regard to the $40 million, we recognize that as an estimate, and so it would be placeholder amount as we are proposing.
Yes, it's noted in the item, so just want to go on the record that we think it's likely higher.
Got it. All right. Colleagues, any questions? Yes, Senator Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to respond to the administration's point with regard to the grace period, we heard this item in a budget sub-3 hearing and heard quite a bit of testimony regarding confusion in the general population about the new exemptions, who it applies to, who it doesn't. We acknowledge that it's a new policy. It's a pretty significant redirect from common practice today. And so we thought it was very reasonable to allow for the extension for the general population of IHSS providers and recipients to understand the new policy and make adjustments accordingly.
Thank you for that additional information, Senator Mitchell. We'll move on to public comment. Please join us.
Hi there, Tiffany Whiten with SEIU California. We support the proposal put forth before you. The proposal will help both the providers, which we represent, and those social workers. Across the board, nobody is prepared, and this proposal will definitely get everybody prepared for the implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Kim Rutledge with UDW, AFSCME Local 3930. We're also in support of the proposal that was brought forward today. We strongly believe that an extra 3 months of the grace period would give ample time for providers and recipients to be able to understand these changes. The real issue with the grace period ending on May 1st is the fact that if people start making violations now, after 3 violations, they risk losing their jobs. So we're talking about providers here that could be losing their jobs over simply not understanding program rules yet that are extremely complicated. So we believe that an extra 3 months is worth the money is worth the cost to keep our providers from losing their jobs and consumers from losing their caregivers. It's quite simple. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Frank Mecca with the County Welfare Directors Association, also in support of the package before you. This is an extraordinarily complicated change, and I think everyone's done their due diligence. I think the Department of Social Services has, the counties have, providers have, and consumers have. But the fact is that the rollout of the changes that the legislature adopted have taken longer from the standpoint of the issuance of instructions. That's delayed the programming of computers, which delays the training of social workers and the education of providers. So it's no sort of disrespect or an attempt to drag feet. It's just the reality of implementing something this complicated. And so for those reasons, we would urge your consideration of this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Mecca.
Yeah, Kevin, as in Coalition California Welfare Rights Organizations, we also support the package for the same reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Roy Ricoba. I'm from DOGFIGHT, which is a disabled rights group. I support this, and I know a lot of people that in DOGFIGHT and other organizations that have that are on IHSS or have a client that's on HSS. They need the help, all the help they can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Costa, just wanted to see if any of those comments or those that Senator Mitchell shared from what she heard in her subcommittee were new to you at all.
No, and I would say in acknowledgement of Senator Mitchell's point, as well as the public testimony that we've heard, we certainly understand the complexity of this implementation. And I think, it's certainly not the administration's viewpoint to be vindictive towards providers as we are transitioning to this new world. However, we still remain opposed to extending the grace period because hopefully we can kind of work through this in real time, as I think we are actually right now, versus extending the grace period and creating general fund cost pressures for ourselves.
So I know it would not be intended, but do you have any concerns whatsoever that someone could either lose his or her job or that a recipient might lose his or her caregiver?
Well, again, I would just reiterate that it's not the administration's intent to be vindictive here. And I guess I would categorize that under perhaps a more, I don't know if vindictive is the right word, but more hardline approach, which is I don't think where we are in implementation right now.
Do you think it could be an unintended consequence?
Jay Kapoor with the Department of Finance. So I think there was mention made about the month of May, and the plan was to use May to sort of work through the errors that may still be coming through on these timesheets. So generally, there was going to be no violations issued in May. And the other thing to keep in mind is one violation does not mean a provider is terminated. So there is
first strike.
It is a first strike, but they can have that removed if it was a true error, or there was, not a clear understanding of how to fill in the timesheet. I will say that there was, the department has done trainings. There were trainings done for the counties and also for providers and recipients on the new process. A lot of this, by extending the grace period, that may need to be revisited again. Definitely, there will need to be more training surrounding the increase in the hours, the weekly cap that is being contemplated here. So there are going to be, I think the costs that Ms. Costa mentioned, they include more than just, it's reflective of more than just extending the grace period and increasing the caps. There is other one-time and mostly one-time work that would need to be done. And that's included in those numbers.
Thank you, sir. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you, Senator Leno. If I may move the item, but also say that this is an issue that's kind of indicative of what we often see in Budget Sub 3 in Health and Human Services. When a major policy shift occurs in the context of the budget, because we're either managing investment or trying to score savings, we often underestimate the time it takes for true systems change. So this isn't the first time we've experienced that. We often do with computer designs, whatever the case may be. So that's why I think it's a problem that in the context of a budget, we create these kind of policy shifts because we're constrained by this time frame and dollar figure. as opposed to looking realistically about the time it takes for multiple levels of government to create system change to affect the new policy. And so, again, I would say based on the testimony we heard in committee, we believe the 3 months is reasonable, and I move the item, sir.
Thank you, Senator Mitchell. So as we take the roll, this is to approve the total placeholder amount of $40 million general fund, and then also the placeholder trailer bill language that reflects that action. Call the roll, please.
Leno,
Aye.
Nielsen, Allen, Anderson, Bell, Block, Glazer, Hancock, Mitchell, Monning, Morlock, Wynn, Pan, Pavley, Roth, Stone, Wolk.
Okay. The measure passes 13-3, and given that we have members returned, I'm going to go back to issue 6, which is our cap and trade expenditure plan, so that we can lift the call. Item 6, page 9, please call absent members.
Block, Glazer, Wynn,
So that measure passes 9-6. Moving on to issue 9, which is the CalWORKS MAP increase and repeal of the maximum family grant policy. That's on page 12, issue 9. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just provide some brief background and context on this item. First, since the 2013-14 fiscal year, the legislature has allocated a portion of realignment funds to pay for periodic grant increases in the CalWORKS program. To date, 2 5% grant increases have been provided with these funds, and the governor's May revision estimates that there will be sufficient excess dedicated funds to provide an additional increase of 1.4% effective this October. Second, as noted in your agenda, the CalWORKS maximum family grant rule specifies that if a child is born in a CalWORKS family, and if the family had received aid continuously for the previous 10 months, the cash assistance received by that family does not increase to reflect the additional need from having that child. And it's estimated that about 130,000 children and 93,000 families are affected by this policy currently. The proposal before you would repeal the maximum family grant policy effective January 2017 and would additionally provide the 1.4% grant increase that's identified in the May revision effective October, with the cost of these actions paid for in the long run from dedicated realignment funds. It's important to note that the dedicated funds are not sufficient to cover the full cost of these actions in the budget year. There would be roughly $100 million of costs from the general fund. We estimate that these would grow to roughly $120 million in 2017-18, and then gradually decrease in later years as the available dedicated funds grow until there is no ongoing general fund cost.
Thank you, Mr. Woolsey. The repeal of the maximum family grant policy, which of course is a result of Senator Mitchell's leadership we have discussed for many, many years, and I think this is a great day for us to finally take action. Can you give us a little background information with regard to the Child Poverty and Family Supplemental Support Account and where that money comes from? Because these would be non-general fund dollars, correct?
That's correct. As I mentioned, as part of the 13-14 Budget Act, the legislature chose to redirect a portion of state-local realignment funds that previously were going to support various health and social services programs. This was in the context of the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, and various changes were made at that time. These funds typically grow over time, and the law that was passed at the time of that Budget Act dedicated those funds to pay for new grant increases. And so there have been 2 increases provided so far. There's sufficient funds for an additional increase as identified in the May revision. When the cost of all the augmentations that have been paid for from the sub-account exceed available revenues, the general fund pitches in to fill the gap, but over time, as the sub-account funds grow, they would offset the general fund spending.
And you said this results from the Affordable Care Act, so this in effect is actually from Medi-Cal savings? Is there a relationship there?
There is a very indirect relationship. There is a separate sub-account that is more directly related to Medi-Cal savings. In this case, we're redirecting some of the growth money that would have gone to other sub-accounts, and I'll defer to Department of Finance if they have anything to add.
Primarily, the savings that we generate through the revised 91 realignment structure is really, those savings are the estimated savings to counties from the Medi-Cal expansion. So they used to have a much greater cost because of the indigent health population. Portion of that population is now covered by the state. So this was a...
So our newly eligibles.
Exactly, our newly eligible. So.
Yes. All right. Any questions before we go to public comment? Senator Bell.
I think the issue of the, I strongly support repeal of the maximum family grant. I think the issue is discrimination. It's a discriminatory law, should never have been adopted. We should repeal it. It violates sort of the equal treatment of children. And if there's anybody that needs better treatment, it's the children, and this discriminate against those children from large families. And I think it's a human rights issue for those children. So we have to repeal this. And, thank you, Senator Mitchell, for championing this for so many years. She's been here. I think the first day I met her, she said something about this, I believe, day one, right from the start. And let's make it happen.
Well stated, Senator Bell. Thank you. So we have some folks who'd like to speak, public comment.
Thank you, Chairman Leno and members of the committee. Jessica Barthlow with the Western Center on Law and Poverty. Here today, quite frankly, exhausted, from a 4-year campaign, concerted effort with the leadership of Senator Mitchell, but also full of grateful feelings for the so many people on the committee today who have stood up in support of this policy within that 4-year period. Many of you have had the opportunity to vote for this bill on the Senate floor as a policy, SB 23, in a bipartisan vote with Senator Wen and Senator Anderson pulling in the bipartisanship. Senator Block, your leadership on the Jewish caucus to help raise the issue. Senator Leno, as the budget chairperson, to always lift this up, and certainly Senator Bell. We've passed it out of Senate Human Services Committee. Senator Hancock has seen this issue and supported it and spoken in favor. We've had co-authors with Senator Monning, Senator Pan. This issue is your issue, and it's all of California's issue when we don't treat our children with equal treatment in the law. As a poor child in America and in California, they will be treated differently by their peers, by their education system, sometimes by their government. They shouldn't be treated differently in the law because they were conceived while their parents lived in poverty. So thank you for taking the action today, and I am looking forward to this being a first step in recognizing the humanity of children living in deep poverty. I believe that California can eradicate deep poverty for children, and that we should. And there's a moral mandate that we do. So thank you for taking the action today, and I look forward to celebrating its signature by the governor, its passage in the full body, and its signature by the governor later this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bartholomew. And you're very gracious in your comments. We thank you for your leadership as well.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kevin. As the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations, we've been trying to fight this for 2 centuries to stop the child abuse that this program is inflicting upon poor children and hopefully this will be the day that, the year that it will stop. And I also want to publicly thank everybody who's supporting this. Everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Maya Ingram for the ACLU of California, co-sponsor of SB 23 and one of the organizations that originally challenged the rule. I want to thank you for your action today in repealing MFG, a policy that penalizes California's poorest children and intrudes on the private reproductive health decisions of California's mothers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members. Dennis Cuevas Romero here on behalf of the California Latinas for Reproductive Justice in strong support of this proposal. As you've seen data, likely about 66% of families impacted by this discriminatory law affects Latina and Latino families, so CLRJ is in strong support of this measure. Thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Romero.
I'm Barbara Barron. I'm representing a broad interfaith coalition, including the National Council of Jewish Women, the California Catholic Conference, the California Council of Churches, the Lutheran Office of Public Policy, the Friends Committee on Legislation of California, and the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism. Hopefully all of you saw a video that was sent to your offices from the leaders of all these various faiths, calling upon you and thanking you for repealing this horrible law that's been in effect way too long in California. We all believe that every California child is precious and deserves an opportunity to thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Barron.
My name is Robert Cope, and I can't say any better than Mr. Senator Beal said. He said it perfectly, in my opinion. Why? We never should have the maximum family grant in the first place. We should give children opportunities to succeed, and a maximum family grant is given opportunity to failure. I don't understand that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Frank Mecca with CWDA, and he may have said it a little better. We're also really grateful for the action that we think you're about to take. This law has done nothing but push kids into deeper poverty. It's also undermined welfare to work, because as families and parents are poorer, it is more difficult for them to take advantage of services to move into the workforce. So we look forward to finally, after 20 years, eliminating this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mecca. Ms. Costa, did I give you an opportunity to speak?
Hello?
There you're on.
It's on. I don't know, the lights aren't working. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. As the analyst pointed out, the administration did propose an increase in the maximum aid payment as part of our May revise, which would be effective on October 1st. However, at this time, the administration doesn't support the Budget Committee's recommendation on the maximum family grant. As the analyst pointed out, this proposal does have the propensity to create general fund cost pressure to the degree that the sub-account isn't able to fund this change. And in turn, it just creates additional general fund cost pressures for us to deal with during the next economic downturn.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Yes, Senator Monning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know you've already had comment and questions. I just wanted to add my voice in recognition of the leadership of Senator Mitchell on this issue and all the advocates who have stepped up in the work of this whole committee. Sometimes changes in history take time, but it does seem like now is the time. And I would just comment on the evaluation of Department of Finance and the administration. While there may be some pressure put on the general fund with the repeal of the maximum family grant, I would encourage the department to cost out the pressure on the general fund for children who are left behind and become totally dependent on the support of the state, whether it's through foster care or through incarceration or other costs to our general fund. This is an investment that's an investment in giving children equal footing and an opportunity not to be drains on our budget in the future, but more important than the economics is the moral justice and the equality inherent in this. So be glad to support it at the appropriate time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Monty. And as you've said, and as others have as well, there's so many reasons to support this repeal. But unfortunately, one of the things we don't often do is cost-benefit analyses, which I think could help us in our decision-making.